I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for your support. Hey y'all, it's Kay from Literary Apothecary, and today we're going to be doing my October wrap up and my November TBR. Stay tuned, there's a lot to discuss. So in October, I finished 12 books and 1 essay. I've got 6 5-stars, 1 4.5 star, 1 4-star, 1 3.5 star, and 3 3-stars. So a decent rating month, not the best, but a decent month. Books that I finished in October include Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, the illustrated edition, of course. This one I gave 4 stars because I was a little disappointed with the quantity. It seemed like there wasn't as many as there were in the first book illustrations, and some of them were a little disappointing, like the illustration of Dobby. Guns of the Dawn, I gave 5 out of 5 stars. Adrian Tchaikovsky did such an amazing job with this book. I've got a review coming for this very soon, but wow, everything just felt like it came together in place. The writing was so well done. The characters were well written. Just everything was so well done. I did not want to change a single thing in it. Lord Jim by Joseph Conrad, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars, and I just put up a review for that today on day of filming, so I'll link that in the description below. I felt like this had some slog to it. It took a while to get through. It took a lot of focus for me to get through, but the ending completely made up for it. The ending was so fantastic. The Echo Wife I also gave 3 stars. This was a psychological thriller, science fiction thriller by Sarah Gailey. I felt a little underwhelmed by it. I was hoping for more and I didn't get that more, so I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. Aspho Fields is another 3-star book, and I believe that's all of the 3 stars if I did the math correctly. This is book 1 in the Gears of War series. This is a series of novels written about or after, towards, in direction of the Gears of War video games. I believe the video games came first, and then they wrote these books about the narration of it. For me, the characters have fallen flat, and there's a confusing narrative style because it jumps around timelines and points of view a lot, so it's hard to follow along if you're trying to follow along. A lot of times I tell myself just to forget trying to follow along, and I enjoy it a lot more at those times. Let's see, I also finished Bruno, Chief of Police by Martin Waller. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I loved this audiobook so much. This was my patron pick for October, picked by Stacy, and this was so well done. It had such an unexpected twist in it. I can't tell you what the twist was because that would give away the book, but wow. If you're looking for a fun mystery, murder mystery that is short and easy to get through, a great audiobook also, highly recommend Bruno, Chief of Police. 5 out of 5 stars to Of Mice and Men. This is still one of my favorite classics. Also 5 out of 5 stars to House of Salt and Sorrows. This is, now we're getting into the 5-star rounds. This was marketed as a YA book, but it wasn't YA at all. It had a great mixture of horror, fantasy, and thriller to it, and I just loved everything about this. Lord John and the Brotherhood of the Blade is another 5 out of 5 stars. I thought this storytelling of Diana Gabaldon's was top-notch in this book, and she had great story and character balance. A lot of times you either have great plot or you have great characters, but not a lot of good balance between the two. But I thought in The Brotherhood of the Blade, Diana Gabaldon did a fantastic job of balancing both the plot and the character in this book. Lord John and the Hand of Devils was the collection of short story and 2 novellas in the Lord John series. I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. Some of it felt a little jumbled and forced, though the last novella in the collection, Lord John and the Haunted Soldier, felt like it was the best out of the collection. I liked that one the best. On Going Home was our Joan Didion essay of the month for October, and this I felt like gave great insight to Joan Didion's family. 2 books left in October. We had Strangers in a Promised Land, which was a novella in the Continua Chronicles series by Jim Milbourne. This is kind of book 1.5, he labels it. It comes directly after our first book in the series, The 7th Cadence, and I gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved seeing more of Mara and Amy, and I can't wait to see where Jim takes this series. And then the last book that I finished in October, assuming I don't finish any more books before this goes live, is Razorblade Tears, which I also gave 5 out of 5 stars. This was a fantastic murder mystery thriller that we read for the Wine and Crime book club held by Leslie at the Nerdy Narrative. I read this one after everyone else did. This was one for a previous month, but my library loan came through at the beginning of the month, and so I picked it up on audiobook, and I also had the physical copy that I got with John. So this is part of my Books My Boyfriend Gave Me series. This book kept me engaged the entire time, which lately, because I've had so much going on in life and school and work, that's really hard to say. Not many books have kept me as engaged as Razorblade Tears did, and so I had to give 5 out of 5 stars for this book. Now we'll talk about the books that I'm reading in November next. So first, as we always do, let's talk about my carryovers. So carrying over from October into November will be Jacinto's Remnant, which is the book 2 in the Gears of War series. I'm going to continue reading that series through November. 12 Blades in Contempt, which is a self-pub book by Jordan Darrett, I believe is the name. I got this book from the author himself. He sent me a paperback copy of this book, and I'm enjoying it. It's supposedly got elements of the Cradle series, Rage of Dragons, and the Poppy Wars series. I've only read book 1 in the Poppy Wars series. I haven't read the other series at all, so I can't tell you what the comparison is for me, but I am enjoying this read. It reads rather quickly. It's a great storytelling method. I am getting slightly confused between all of the characters, but I'm enjoying it nonetheless. And then my last carryover book will be A Handful of Souls, which is also a self-pub book by Stephen Rice. He sent me an ebook copy of this for an honest review, and this is a fantasy book, epic fantasy. I'm still very early on in this book, but I'm enjoying what I'm reading so far, so more to come on that once I get further in. Now the books I'm going to be starting and maybe hopefully finishing in November include, of course, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, the illustrated edition. This is book 3 in the series, and I am buddy reading this with Leslie at the Nerdy Narrative and a couple other folks on my Discord. Of course, we'll have a channel up on the Discord for this book where we can post pictures of the illustrations that we come across while reading it. Augustus by John Williams is a buddy/patron read with Alan at the Library of Alexandria that he's starting up now in November. This is a sweeping narrative that brings vividly to life a compelling cast of historical figures through their letters, dispatches, and memoirs. I am really excited to get back to historical fiction and start reading this with Alan and everyone on that Discord. This is all about the Romans. So Augustus is essentially, I believe, the nephew of Caesar, and he was 18 when Caesar was assassinated, and now he has to take the throne and essentially assert his dominance over all of the Roman senators and whatnot. I can't wait for that read. My patron pick of the month for November was picked by Ben, and it was a fantastic one. Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. This is a classic and one of the original vampire books, and this has been on my TBR forever, so I can't wait to read this. I think Ben and I are going to be buddy reading this together in November, so I'm super excited for that. I've seen the movie version of this with Brad Pitt, but I haven't read the book yet, so I'm super excited. If you don't know what Interview with the Vampire is, it's Lewis's journey in becoming a vampire. It takes place in New Orleans, and I learned looking up the synopsis for this that it originally began as a short story, but then the book took off as Rice was writing it, spinning the tragic and triumphant life experiences of a soul. So I can't wait to finally read Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. Our last buddy read of November, assuming I don't add any more, is of course our Joan Didion essay of the month. That is Notes from a Native Daughter. We are in, I believe, what is the last part of the Slouching Towards Bethlehem book now. Of course, we're reading a giant collection of nonfiction, which has at that point, all of Joan Didion's published nonfiction work in there. So this is the first book in that collection, and I think we're coming down to the last part of that, part 3. So Notes from a Native Daughter will be our essay of the month for November, which is appropriate for Nonfiction November, and it also marks the 1-year anniversary of our Joan Didion read-along that we've been slowly inching our way towards. So as of right now, my live show read will be Sundial, which is by Catriona Ward, and this is our Wine and Crime book club of the month for November with Leslie at the Nerdy Narrative. This is a twisty psychological horror. A mother who sees a darkness in her daughter that reminds her of a family she left behind. Then they return home and the daughter starts to become concerned about the mother. So I'm really excited to read this. The cover is absolutely amazing. It's gorgeous. I love those bright purples on there, so I can't wait. So in November, we also have our Rating Project Gutenberg readathon, and everything on my TBR that I'm about to talk about can be found for free on Project Gutenberg website. I will put that link in the description below. So the point of this readathon is to raise awareness for Project Gutenberg and let you all know that there's some amazing finds out there for free on this website. So take advantage of it. So my first book on my Rating Project Gutenberg TBR is our group read, which is Rasalius by Samuel Johnson. This is the story of the journey of Rasalius and his companions in search of the choice of life, man's constant search for happiness. And I can't wait to read this with everyone. At the end of the month, I believe like right after Thanksgiving, we'll have a live show for this held right here at the Literary Apothecary, where we're going to talk all about Rasalius and maybe some of the other books that we read during this readathon. My next book on my TBR is The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. This was my pick for Mark's prompt, which was read something other than a novel. This was a play written by Oscar Wilde published in 1895 and performed. It's Oscar Wilde's a madcap farce about mistaken identities, secret engagements, and lovers' entanglements. This has been on my TBR for so long, and I can't wait to finally get to it. And it's short, y'all. It's short because it's only a play, so I can't wait. Next up is The Last Man by Mary Shelley. This was my pick for Stephanie's prompt, which was reread a favorite classic or a new book by a favorite classic author. Y'all know how much I love Mary Shelley, and I've been trying to get through all of her works. This was supposed to be read months and months ago, so now I'm circling back to my unread TBRs with this book. This is a futuristic story of tragic love and the gradual extermination of the human race by plague. Considered her most important novel after Frankenstein, with intriguing portraits of Percy Shelley, her husband, and Lord Byron. The novel offers a vision of the future that expresses a reaction against romanticism and demonstrates the failure of the imagination and of art to redeem the doomed characters. I can't wait to read this. Sounds so good. My next book on my TBR is The Everyday Life of Abraham Lincoln by Frances Fisher Bruin, and this is a collection of kind of essays and recollections about Abraham Lincoln, notes, letters from people who knew him in real life. And Abraham Lincoln has been one of those figures in my life that has always stood out to me. I've always been fascinated by him, so whenever I get a chance to read about him, I can't wait for it. This is following actually my prompt for this, so all of the co-hosts created prompts on this little bingo board, which you'll see up there. This was my prompt for read a nonfiction selection because it's Nonfiction November, so why not? So the last book on my Rating Project Gutenberg TBR is Father Gore by Honoré de Balzac, so written by Balzac. This was published in 1835, and this is, according to the novel Cure, one of the 10 best novels for 20-somethings. I'm not sure why, but we'll find out once I read it. Short synopsis of this book. This is a tragic story of a father whose obsessive love for his two daughters leads to his financial and personal ruin. We also have an intertwined story of Rastignac, who came to Paris to make a fortune. He's an aristocrat. So I can't wait to see how these two stories intertwine together. Supposedly they become like really good friends, and I can't wait for this. So then the last books on my November TBR will be the remainder of the Gears of War series. I have apparently 5 more books in this series, not counting the one that I'm currently reading. Not sure if I'll get through all of them in November, but my hope is to get through them all in November. We'll see how far I can get, but that has been my October wrap-up, my November TBR. Y'all let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite book you read in October, and what are you looking forward to reading the most in November? Everything I've talked about here, I will include links in the description below. As always, my Patreon, my Discord information will be in the description below. There's no pressure to join either, but we have a ton of fun at both. Keep reading, and I love y'all to the moon and back. Bye.